Greetings and salutations. How are you today? Well, a couple of days ago I was looking at all this stuff, like in the press again. And, you can't help it. You go into life like Facebook and, there are people in there that you have a continual conversation with, technically, right? And you're bouncing back and forth, putting these messages on these message boards, right? Sometimes it gets a little confusing to me because, I forget that what I put on somebody on my board and somebody's reading it, it may not go to anybody else's board. Of course, it goes to theirs. And sometimes I put up material that some people disagree with, and, it goes both ways. But, recently I've been, I don't know if I did the right thing or not, but this thing with Ebola that came up, which to me is a very dreaded disease and a very horrible way to die. And I did take disagreement with the fact that they supposedly, from what I understand now, if I'm correct, they brought people into the United States which were infected, which were, I am gathering, were U.S. citizens. But myself, if I had that disease, where they got it or they contracted it, if I was the CDC, I would say, well, we do have the ability, since we're a multi-trillion-dollar organization in the U.S.A., to treat this on site, or at least move these people that need to be treated to a place that is not away from the U.S. population in the continental U.S.A. And they have so many sites and black ops sites that they don't talk about. And I'm sure they have facilities all over the world where this can be treated with the same results, right? And tell me, let's face it, there is no way that these mofos in government can't put something on a big-ass airplane and get it there within hours, which they do all the time. They always seem to have money to send people like Obama and his family on multiple vacations. Now, if I can afford to do that, I can afford to have these guys put this equipment they need to give these people the ultimate treatment rather than drag them back, it's not that I'm a big person that's on obliteration and the doomsday thing, but I don't believe in testing fate. There is a logical thing about pushing it too far. Like, if people were aware of the fact when the plague broke out back in the Middle Ages, they actually were tracking the plague for over 100 years because it kept going from country to country to country, all the way from the steppes of Mongolia all the way to Central Europe, which it wiped out over 3/4 of. There were houses and whole villages left with everybody dead, and people would just walk in and take over a house and a whole estate. They just had to move the bodies out and get rid of them. Okay, so here we go. We bring this. We have this organization that is, shrouded in secrecy also, because we know they make biological weapons, and they supposedly are coming up with ways to, stop other countries with their biological weapons. And this is a competition that's been going on, like, nuclear bombs and weaponry and missiles and guns for just as long. Chemical warfare has been around as long. What I'm trying to say is the fact that to bring the tiger and put the tiger in the cage with the sheep is definitely not a good idea. I don't care. It's like nobody's perfect, especially us. We make mistakes. And it always reminds me that movie series where, they let loose that pathogen from, that zombie disease in Raccoon City. And, it's a video game, and they made movies out of it. But it makes me think, I don't care what people say that, this can't happen. There is always a possibility of the worst happening. I'm sure that if you walked up to 3/4 of the people getting on the Titanic, or everybody on the Titanic, were standing there on the pier saying, this ship is going to sink on its maiden voyage and many of you will die. Don't get on the ship. How many people would actually stand there and listen to that individual? Probably not that many. Okay, so think about it. If somebody is out there waving their hand that is maybe saying, hey, maybe we're taking this too fast. But you see, people like you and me that are probably viewing this, we are not in that loop. We are not of that select group again. And therefore we're not taken or paid attention to. And then after the horrible thing happens, if it does happen, who says it will and will not? But if it doesn't happen, it goes by and everybody says, I told you so. But then if it happens, what do? They point their finger to the other guy and said, not my fault, his fault, I was only following orders. And I think the Germans did that in World War II at the Nuremberg trials. Anyway, this one's run a little bit longer, and we'll pick you up on the flip side, maybe again shortly. Thank you very much. But that's a thought for you. Just, what do you think? Are we doing the right thing by letting them do what they do when they do that?